everybody. We're gonna be talking about the Tamron 28-200 for wedding videography. Yeah, this lens right here, this lens is a very small lens. So I typically use the 28-200 for my wedding films, but I don't use it for my main camera. Normally I have a second shooter that be with me. And so what he does, he used the 28-200. And the reason why I chose this lens over the 70-180 is because he can have a wide range of shots. So he can use the 28 or he can go to all the way to 200. The 70-180, he couldn't really get a wide enough shot with the 70-180, and he struggled to get wide shots because he had to bag up so far back to get his shot. So this lens is perfect if you're on a budget or just overall just need a quick lens. I want to note, yeah, this is a 2.8, but it's not fixed. So it's gonna be a 2.8 to 5.6. Because the 70-180 is a fixed 2.8. That's the only thing I would say that was downfall of this lens. So yeah, this lens is beautiful. So it is very versatile when it's come down to being the second shot. And it's worth noting the efficient mobility. This lens is a very, very fast-paced lens. I can definitely say that. As far as with my second shooter, he's always in focus. When I tell him on my headset to get a shot, whether it's of me or the bride or whatnot, he is definitely always able to get that shot with quick and ease, because this lens is very fast-paced. It's strictly made for photography. So of course it's gonna have a very quick autofocus. Let's not just talk about its fast-paced, but also the size, the compact size that Tamron used for this lens. This lens, I mean, you can just look at it. It's just you can see how it fits in my hand. It's very compact, lightweight, and everything. So this lens weighs right at 675 grams. I'd rather put this in my bag than the 70-180. The 70-180 is, as we all know, is a very, very bulky lens. It's very big. It's actually longer in length and bigger in width as well. So if you want something very small, fast-paced, able to keep up with your events, whether it's like race car driving or whether it's sports, this lens is it. But far as for my weddings, I have noticed that it is very fast-paced. When my assistant is able to catch on focus when he's on the dance floor with a certain group of people, or when we're during the ceremony, when I tell him to focus on the groom's face, he's able to do that with no problem. With this, since it's weighed in at 675 grams, it's very lightweight. So carrying this on your gimbal, it's not gonna really strain your gimbal. Yes, when you go to balance your gimbal, you will have to zoom in at least halfway. That's why I always tell my assistants to always zoom in halfway to balance your gimbal. Once you do that, it will compensate for that extra length that you zoom in and zoom out. And yeah, it's extreme zoom, so that barrel is gonna extend. That's at 200 right here. So it's gonna extend when you shoot with this lens. So it is worth noting that the filter thread on this Tamron is 67. Yes, just like all the Tamron lineups, whether you got the 70-180, the 28-75, the 17-28, they're all gonna have the same filter thread right here. So that's all the same. So next, what we're gonna talk about is probably its only drawback is the aperture. See you in a minute. As I was saying about the aperture switches every time you zoom in and out. So basically, if you're shooting at 28 frames per second, it means it's gonna be at 2.8. But once you start zooming in, just inching towards the 200, it's gonna end up being all the way up to 5.6. Like I said, that's the only downfall that I would say about this lens, is that it doesn't have a fixed aperture. I mean, of course, it has a very nice image quality. Now, once you start zooming in and out, you're just not gonna be able to get that separation. And we all know about the bokeh. The bokeh, the 2.8, and all the Tamron lenses is amazing. It's very amazing. And so once you get, so you can probably just shoot at 28 and be fine with it. But you're not gonna wanna always shoot at 28, because with my second shooter, he don't always shoot at 28. He always have to zoom in all the way in at 200. At our last wedding, we had to shoot, I wanted him to get the reaction of the groom. And so, of course, this was an outside wedding, and so he had to zoom all the way in. He couldn't get close and use the 28, of course, because of how they had this set up. So him being able to zoom to 200 all the way, it makes it easier for all of us, especially on those wedding days, to be able to get them shots when we need them. And so, yeah, I mean, of course, the bouquet is amazing. As we all know, the 2.8, the lower that f-stop is, the more blurry your background is. I'm currently shooting at 2.8, so I had to turn around 28 to 75 on it. And it has a 2.8. And what it's doing right now, as you can see, I'm in focus and the background is blurry. So the closest I get, the more blurry the background gets. So you're not gonna be able to do that throughout the whole zoom range of this lens. So that's something to think about if you want a lens that is fixed. Something to think about. As far as the dynamic range and the colors, it's pretty much the same in all of them. To me, I have about 3 to 4 Tamron lenses now, so they all look the same to me. I mean, they have great colors. I'm not saying that since they look the same, they're just not as good. They all got great colors. The dynamic range in them, the contrast in them is always great. Tamron really figured out their color science with their lenses. And of course, these are an older lens. It's not gonna be like the G2 or the 28 to 75, or it's gonna be a little bit different than the newer lenses, of course. But like I said, if you're a beginner, looking for a zoom lens, just trying to get your net, get some work in and have a trustworthy lens, or have a very versatile lens to be your first, I would definitely say take a look at the 28 to 200. All my Tamron lenses are lightning quick with autofocus. So like the focus breathing, you're not gonna see it as much. You'll see it at times, but as far as it's just horrible, it's not. It's something you'll just see. But is it a deal breaker with this lens? I would not say that. I would not say it's a deal breaker because of this focus. It might, not get focused as good every now and then. But as far as what I've seen, as far as what I worked with it, with my wedding films, it does an amazing job. It hasn't failed me not one time yet. I can honestly say that, going back and looking at my footage. But overall, learning how to use these lenses is not really, of course, the lenses can do one thing, but overall, it's how you film as well. It's all your skills and your mindset when you're going into your shoot. So take that always into consideration when you're picking up a new lens. Make sure you always craft your skills, no matter if it's, shooting sports or shooting models, whatever it is. Make sure you always put in skills. Make sure you always put in time to get those skills. And just to talk about the focus range, of course, being up close on your subject is something that we all love to do during our weddings. And this lens right here can do exactly that. If you want to get close to your subject or close to the rings on their finger or the earrings, you could do exactly that with this lens. I had to switch from my other setup to this lens to get a certain shot because my battery died. And guess what? I needed a tight shot of something. And this lens was able to do the exact same thing that I wanted. Yet, like I said, since it didn't have, if I had to zoom in using the 2.8, it still worked just fine. And the biggest thing about this lens that I love, that you probably would love as well, is not being able to use another lens. Once you have it on your camera, you won't have to use no other lens. This lens is gonna be on your camera from the start of the wedding till the reception or send-off. Basically, I mean, that's your goal, of course, but whether the project, you don't have to reach in your bag just to get a lens because of all the focal lengths here, because you're shooting from 28 to 200. And I just want to give Tamron credit about this lens. I mean, I had recently in one of my weddings where during the reception, we forgot to have battery chargers. Don't do what I do. And we was running out of battery. So what I had to do, my third camera had a battery in it, and my assistant had a good battery on his, but I had really no batteries in my camera. And so guess what I had to do? I had to switch over, so I had to use his setup instead of mine. And so immediately I thought like, oh, will I be able to achieve the same looks that I normally get with my 28 to 75 Tamron? So once I tried that and got his setup, I was very amazed. Of course, I knew the capabilities and I used it from time to time, but I never used it as much as my assistant on the wedding day, of course. Like I used it, but not that much that day, where I had to shoot from dancing, when I had to shoot the dancing and the send-off with it. I think I did it with the send-off, but whether or not I still was able to capture the same exact movements that I wanted, the same look, it gave me the same colors, yet I was using the Sony a7S IIIs. If you don't have a Sony a7S III, definitely consider looking at it, checking it out. If not, check out some other cameras. There's a lot of good cameras, but as far as this setup with the Tamron and the Sony a7S III, this setup is a great setup. But at the time of this recording, this lens is about $650 US dollars. Look at all the rest of the other high-end lens out there, because this lens is considered to me cheap. I mean, that $600 is a lot of money, but considering paying for a G Master or considering paying for, you know, whatever other lens that's maybe $2,000 at the most for that focus range. So 650 to, I think it ranges, like I said, 650 to 730, I want to say, around that range. And since I've been using this lens, I'm able to use my second assistant's shots more often. I've been able to use them more since he's been using this, because since he was using the 7180, I couldn't use as much because he couldn't get the shots that we needed when he was too close. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I pulled the trigger. So is the Tamron 28-200 great for wedding films in 2023? I would say yes. Now for your main camera, I would have to say no, because you don't have a fixed aperture. That's it. I would rather have a 2.8 and be a 2.8. Don't ever move. Hey, if you really got something out of this video or learned something new, or really like the information you got in this video, please like and subscribe and stay tuned for the next upcoming videos. And we will be comparing the 70 to 180 to this lens, so if you want to see that, stay tuned. That video will be coming out soon. And hey, I'll see you when I see you.